All right, we are now streaming live.
Cool. Welcome. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. A little sleepy, a little tired.
Nice. So I think what we should do is maybe watch that video we were talking about, and maybe if anybody watching or listening wants to, ask some questions or pop in, we can leave the lines open and have our little open house again.
I think that'll work. The link should be up in the description.
Excellent. I'm gonna tweet that out and see if we get any bites, and then we'll get going.
Okay.
Okay, so where do I find it, Josh? I'm looking online on the channel and I can't find the link to share it.
I'll find it. Are you wanting the joining link or just the video link?
Just the link to watch, and then if they have it, they can join on with Hangouts.
Hold on a second.
No, when you say society and the government, no, hold on. When you say society and the government.
Right. Probably not very exciting watching us do this.
No, not at all. But I mean, I think it's probably a good idea that we sort this kind of thing out now, so that when we do our open houses, we can you know get better at what we're doing. I think this is just growing pains, my man.
Yeah, it should be in that core ops room. The watch
Okay.
room.
And then yeah, so I'm gonna share that, and then we'll get started. Okay. Most exciting show and radio is back.
Yay, dead silence. I keep forgetting we're broadcasting.
It's all right. I just popped back in, but what we should do is why don't we fire up the video so if we do, have some technical issues again, at least we've got something playing.
2 years ago, well, my research, I'm convinced it's much more serious than that. It's more than a hallucinate network. It is a conspiracy. In 1784, a copy of this document was sent to the Illuminist Weishaupt and delegated to foment the French Revolution. Meaning the Illuminati was responsible for the French Revolution? Yes, absolutely. The courier was struck dead by lightning as he rode through Ratisbon on his way from Frankfurt to Paris. What about a little divine intervention there, huh? The police found the subversive documents on his body and turned them over to the proper government authorities. After careful study of the plot, the Bavarian government ordered the police to raid Weishaupt's newly organized lodges of the Grand Orient and the homes of some of the most influential associates, including the castle of Baron Basen-Sonderdorf. Additional evidence was thus obtained, convinced the authorities that documents were a genuine copy of a conspiracy by which the Synagogue of Satan had controlled the Illuminati at the top, planned to use wars and revolutions to bring about the establishment of one kind or another of a one-world government, the powers of which they intended to usurp as soon as it was established. In 1785, the Bavarian government outlawed the Illuminati and closed the lodges of the Grand Orient. In 1786, they published the details of the conspiracy.
Hey, Josh, can you pause it for a second, man?
Sure can.
The new order of the world.
I would just like at this time to give all video credits to the owner who put it out on YouTube and Xendrius for the remake. We are just watching it and commentating on it. We will also provide the links to the video and all credits when the podcast is over.
They should be found in the show notes. I've put them in there in the description box.
Yes, right on.
And from which we are watching.
Sweet. See, that's why we have a guy who already thinks about all this stuff.
Our enterprise is now a success.
He said these blind slaves say they are free and highly educated, even as they march behind, notice this word, signs. Have you ever taken time to analyze a sign or a billboard or logo?
We'll start up here. In 1784, an act of God placed the Bavarian government in possession of evidence which proved the existence of the continuing Luciferian conspiracy. This explains the previous 9 pages, goes into it in detail. We don't have time to do it completely. Conspiracy. Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law, defected from Christianity and embraced the Luciferian ideology while teaching at Ingolstadt University. In 1770, the money lenders who had recently organized the House of Rothschild retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols designed to give the Synagogue of Satan ultimate world domination so they can impose the Luciferian ideology upon what remains of the human race after the final social cataclysm by use of satanic despotism. Weishaupt completed his task on May the 1st, 1776. It's a communist holiday, isn't it? May 1, 1776. The plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. In 1776, Weishaupt organized the Illuminati to put the plot into execution. The word Illuminati is derived from Lucifer and means holders of the light. Weishaupt's revised plan required his Illuminati to do the following things to help them accomplish their purpose. 1, use monetary and sex bribery to obtain control of people already occupying positions in high places in the various levels of all governments and other fields of human endeavor. Once an influential person had fallen for the lies, deceits, and temptations of the Illuminati, they were to be held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail and threats of financial ruin, public exposure, and physical harm, and even death to themselves and their loved ones. Number 12, told those present that they must use their wealth to have candidates chosen to public office who would be obedient to their demands and would be used as pawns in the game by the men behind the scenes. The advisors will have been bred, reared, and trained from childhood to rule the affairs of the world. Number 13, control the press. Number 16, infiltrate into the secret Freemasonry to be used for their purposes. That's been documented many times. Number 17, expound the value of systematic deception, use high-sounding slogans and phrases, and advocate lavish promises to the masses, even though they cannot be kept.
I will not forget the wound to our country and those who inflicted it. I will not yield. I will not rest. I will not relent in waging this struggle for freedom and security for the American people. So I don't know where he is. Nor, I just don't spend that much time on it. We will not tire. We will not falter.
That was funny.
Not fail. Terror is bigger than one person.
And I remember he was telling me how you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, of which there's no real enemy.
Who knows if he's hiding in some cave or not? We hadn't heard from him in a long time.
He's dead, by the way, Aaron Russo.
The plan called for innocent people to be shot on American streets. This is the Pentagon. For boats carrying refugees fleeing Cuba to be sunk on the high seas. For a wave of violent terrorism to be launched in Washington, D.C., Miami, and elsewhere. People would be framed for bombings they did not commit. Planes would be hijacked using phony evidence, all of which would be blamed on Castro to justify an invasion of Cuba 40 years ago. An aircraft at Elgin Air Force Base would be painted and numbered as an exact duplicate for a civil registered aircraft belonging to a CIA proprietary organization in the Miami area. At a designate time, the duplicate would be substituted for the actual civil aircraft and would be loaded with selected passengers, all boarded under carefully prepared aliases. The actual registered aircraft would be converted into a drone, remote control plane, their word for it. Takeoff times of the drone aircraft and the actual aircraft would be scheduled to allow a rendezvous south of Florida.
I mean, he's been tested unlike any other president. This is 9/11. We have in this past year made great progress in ending the long era of conflict and Cold War. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Can you hear me, Josh? I wouldn't be able to tell if you could anyways.
Understandably, why the people that run the banking, political...
Are you all good now, by the way, James? Everything copacetic on your end? Are you good?
Yeah, finally.
Weird.
Yeah, that was totally weird. That's awesome you got that response, by the way.
Yeah, I thought so too. It isn't often, I mean, not that I interact with him a whole lot, but
So, have you you've seen this video before? Like, I feel like we've all seen parts of this video before.
I'm sure yeah. If I've not
Yeah.
seen this, I've seen parts of it.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we'll keep going. Anything on the chat?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Let's see. We got nothing on Q&A.
political economic system and the media in America should be dressed in long robes doing a ceremony to a 40-foot stone owl. I think we should be told.
Hearing about all the differences between John Kerry and George W. Bush. But we've discovered they do have something in common. During their respective college days at Yale, they both belonged to a group called Skull and Bones.
He's come pretty close. She was part of a team that successfully recorded part of the initiation ceremony that takes place in the tomb's courtyard.
Okay, you have the doorway here.
Yeah.
Okay, then to the right you have a hedge, and then you have an evergreen tree. If you follow that line straight back, courtyard's in there.
Okay.
So
that's where they have the ceremonies. In
the outdoor part of it was indoors. So we only got to see the outdoor part.
Right.
We only got to, and listen to the outdoor part. God only knows what went on indoors.
And what did you hear? What was it you know? You managed to get this unique
it was
access to it.
disgusting. It was gross. I mean, they were pretending to murder people.
What was the tone of it though? Was it jokey or was it
Vicious.
like...
No, it wasn't jokey at all. It was sick. It's not the only thing to describe it. It was sick.
What you're hearing is the first recording ever made of the Skull and Bones initiation ceremony. It has never been broadcast before. 15 new members of the club are being introduced into the macabre rituals of Skull and Bones by the senior students who are about to graduate. The club
You know you're muted though, hey? That might be part of it.
So shall we burn thee once again this night? And the flames that eat thine effigy.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Midsummer sets us free.
So if I mute it here, you
It's busted again. Yeah, I can't hear anything. Oh, I can hear again.
That explains a lot.
Ah. See? It's good that we have these little test things, like, you know, growing pains, that's all.
Wow, that's annoying.
How loud they pump the commercial?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sure is. They should be outlawed, actually. I find it highly unstraightforward.
Oops, shit.
More technical snags, but not big ones. We haven't had many big problems here lately, eh? Not too bad.
Not since our buddy Matt got edited. But I wonder how much of that was the mute button.
Yeah, exactly. I'm beginning to think it might be.
Well, that shouldn't mute him, though, should it? I mean, I can see this because it's run through my mixer. How maybe mute the mic here, it would mute the sound coming from the window.
I think so. I don't think it would for his though. Yeah, you're right. I think your logic's right.
All right, now I think I got it.
I just can't stop thinking about also with John. We were talking today. He's like, I'm slowly building my man cave. He's slowly setting up his camera studio and everything. And I'm like looking at the table and I'm like, oh, I gotta do it. We gotta get our personas going. That'd be fun when everybody's all set up.
Trying to figure out why my camera's so out of focus. Maybe because it's dark.
I thought it was the before 2 a.m. filter. The pretty filter. It looked pretty cool, man. That's pretty awesome. Whoa. That's pretty cool effects.
The Bohemian Club, as you say, the Bohemian Club, that's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
One last question. I read a Washington Times article many years ago where you had a comment about the organization, and then now it's been in the Wall Street Journal, it's been in a lot of different newspapers, and that's the Bohemian Grove. And back in, what was it, '96 when you joined as a Clinton advisor. The Republicans were criticizing you. Oh, what about Bohemian Grove? And then you countered them by saying, "Hey, I don't run around in the woods naked." What did that mean? Here is the before-mentioned Washington Times article where he said, "I didn't run around naked like they do."
I don't know what quote you're referring to. I'm not aware of any quote like that. Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that.
First rule of a Fight Club: don't talk about it.
That's right.
Frankly, that's I don't think it's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I just respect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But there's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really?
I'm sorry. You took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put them up after.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understanding. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuinely?
Sir, everything I don't owe you this comment.
I know.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you
ever
and goodbye.
been in a ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
None of your damn business. Probably Alex Jones' finest work. I mean, now that we know where he's come with it all, but I did like that part.
I think this whole thing's been called into question too.
You know what? I do. I agree. I think it's classic. A little truth mixed with lies. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it hard to believe he waltzed in there.
I mean, really, really hard to believe. Unless he's not telling us something. Unless he did something, you know, against the law, like snuck in as a porter or a waiter or something. I find it very difficult to believe as well.
Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature.
They had exactly the same agenda, and that was for bringing in this new world order. I heard George Bush talking at that time. He was talking to Bill Clinton, and I've since photographically recorded it and wrote it verbatim in our book. That when the American people became disillusioned with Republicans leading them into the new world order, that Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, was going to be put into the office of president. This was decided in 1984. Actually, I'd heard about it even prior to that. But that, as of 1984, they were already discussing it as an absolute fact.
The CIA is carrying out mind control on countless numbers of unwitting American victims. And he even went so far as to say the basic methods that they use in this mind control: hypnosis, drugs, and torture.
He typically has good information, Fritz.
Yeah, he does.
The second one was
Just thought I'd try and sneak that in there.
to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind.
This is great. This shot, eh?
So telling.
I mean, I looked at it many ways too. I looked at it at first, like maybe he's just really exhausted, but there's something more to it. It's definitely not. He's just exhausted.
Reflecting a policy of genocide, either
When you're
against the
exhausted,
Tibetan people
you have a hard time
themselves or
keeping your eyes
against
open.
culture.
You blink.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the Al Roker scene. Have you seen that? Where he just kind of wigs out on the Weather Channel or whatever on the broadcast.
Once I realized I had met an honest, genuine, high-level Freemason who told me there were 13 levels of Freemason above the 33rd degree, and that these people were God. There was no God, they were God. So I asked them about their plans to kill people, and they said, yes, there are too many people on the planet. We need to get rid of several billion. And war doesn't seem to work, so we're going to use disease and starvation.
He knew what was happening, and he attempted to warn us when he left office. He told us, quite bluntly and in no uncertain terms, beware of the military-industrial complex. And who is the military-industrial complex? It is the members of the Council on Foreign Relations, and since the inception of the Trilateral Commission as well.
Rest in peace, Bill.
Council on Foreign Relations. I don't know if I'm an official member. I've spoken there before. It basically is just a forum where a bunch of people talk about foreign policy.
Was made up of the Executive Committee of the Council on Foreign Relations. Now, it is extremely significant that you understand that the first 6 members from the government, along with President Eisenhower, were also members and longtime members of the Council on Foreign Relations. They believed in that organization. They believed in its goals, which was one world government.
Number 15, create industrial depression and financial panic, unemployment, hunger, shortage of food. Use this to control the masses or the mobs, and use the mobs to wipe out all those who dare to stand in the way. Well, I'll tell you right now, every expert I've talked to is talking about food shortage. And it's coming, I'm convinced.
What were they? Because I'd never seen anything like that. And his statement was that if he told me, I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're disposable coffins. They were stacked, he told me, 15 high.
We have before us. We've all heard that line, hey?
Let's suppose that you're writing a really important email to a colleague.
Son of a bitch.
One of the driving forces behind this movement, the Illuminati, is the satanic cult movement in this country today. So I began my little journey forward. And one of the matters that I developed information about was an individual I learned about was Aleister Crowley. He likes to have his name pronounced Crowley to rhyme with holy. And the Satanists today, and for the number of years in the past, have basically used his philosophy and his writings as a guide.
He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world. He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast. And he changed his name to Aleister Crowley, so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666. In 1904, Crowley had a communication with an extraterrestrial being named Iwas. And this being, through his wife, kind of a channeling type operation, brought forth a book that was called the Book of the Law in 1904. And this book declared that the slain and risen God, i.e. Jesus, had stepped off the throne, and that a new God, the crowned and conquering child, was taking his place. As a result of this, Crowley proclaimed the end of Christianity and the start of Crowleyanity. Crowley taught that the way you could live forever was by vampirizing little children sexually. And he personally bragged of having slaughtered 150 male children in 1 year. This is why he was called the wickedest man in the world.
In a year.
Closely. For the highest spiritual working, one must accordingly choose that victim which contains the greatest and purest force. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfactory and suitable system. We're talking about human sacrifices.
This is a little nuts, this part.
Yeah.
And they'd also drug them up, and they'd take a sacrificial knife and they'd start from the chest and move all the way down to your abdomen. And then that's how they sacrificed, and they'd collect the blood and they'd drink it. When the mid-September through mid-November, they sacrifice babies and nothing but babies because they need the pure blood of the untainted children. And I didn't understand what it was like. I can't believe I'm seeing this every year of my life. I've experienced that, and that was the hardest part for me. It's like hearing those babies literally scream and cry, and then seeing their blood flow.
The little boy was taken to a basement. He was crucified alive. First he was skinned.
Why is it that no one knows this? Because there's Satanists in the police force and also in the government, the army. They're everywhere. They're even on the council of, the representatives of the United States also. And they're silenced because this is not being exposed because they don't want it to be exposed. Because they're really good at lying and hiding things.
Rebecca, what happens to the people that want to come out of Satanism?
They get killed. They get followed. They get taken. They get sacrificed in front of the congregation of the Satanic Church.
Why?
Fun stuff, though, hey?
About the Satanists
Right.
and who their names and places of where they keep the people under.
Which is a perversion and sickness in my mind. I mean,
No too much information. There's no. It's like being in a gang or in a mafia. You don't get out alive. without consequences.
They gain control of the world by bankrupting their own businesses. The Illuminati owns most, I would say 99 9/10 of the stores that you walk into and shop and the gas stations you go to. And they are going to destroy them on purpose. And the idea of taking over is to bankrupt the whole world where nothing is of any value and the currency does not exist anywhere, and then come back and solve all the problems.
These guys who are manipulating my mind and programming me for mind control purposes claimed, and these criminals in control of our country as well, claim to be gods, demons, and aliens in order that I feel totally helpless, in order that I felt like they were beyond my realm to affect.
Why do they keep the aliens in a Faraday-shielded environment? Because they have a tendency to disappear right through walls. And if you can prevent the transmission of electromagnetic energy, you can stop them from doing it.
Then, as the medium said, we have a very special surprise tonight for you people. A spirit will manifest itself openly here in a few minutes. And right through the wall. Now, the lights weren't terribly bright, but they were like living room lights. A couple of floor lamps, maybe some of these. And that translucent being seemed to come right out of the wall.
How did you feel right at that moment?
It's almost like my heart stopped a little bit. You know, very weird feeling. So it was a lady in a beautiful evening gown, swirling. And she said to Mary, my dear sister, you are so wonderful to have asked for me. So, said the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits, fallen angels, beings.
Just set it out, just like
that.
Yeah.
It didn't make you uneasy when he said they were.
Well, it shocked you a little bit, you know. Something that you first hear mentioned to you. He said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. Because we've been told, the high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you two.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. He said that she was made successful in her singing career by a dear friend of hers that was the same age as she and died when she was 18 years of age. And Loretta was trying to get into the singing world, you know, but it would, she says, I had no success at all.
He's talking about Loretta Lynn.
Who walked right through the wall with my friend.
Loretta Lynn?
My friend.
Yep, the famous country singer.
Uh-huh. In singing Western country music. And I will be with you all the time. She said her voice went through me. The power.
See, and you saw this in a television documentary?
Yeah. This was, I believe, 1976 it took place. Now, the priest explained that when people believe in this business, they are actually opening themselves to be completely deceived by demon spirits, because it gives the demon spirits an opportunity to impersonate the dead. See? And for people to believe their lies.
Isaiah 14 and 11 even speaks of vials being built into his body. Vials are pipes.
The pipers calling you to join him.
The Illuminati doesn't produce rock music to entertain you. They don't produce rock music to make money. They don't need that money. They own everything anyway. They do it to put demonic influence in your life.
Still hasn't convinced me.
No? You don't think that you were lured to the occult?
I was saying I wasn't lured to the online university.
Shit, I got 4 of those degrees.
Nice, man. The Sally Struthers? Remember that? Way back? You're... I forget that. I love the fact that you're the exact same age as me. It's not much that you don't know that I don't know.
All people.
Like almost exactly.
The oldest is the Brotherhood of the Snake, also called the Brotherhood of the Dragon, and it still exists under many different names. The Brotherhood of the Snake is devoted to guarding the secrets of the ages and to the recognition of Lucifer as the one and only true God. If you do not believe in God, Lucifer, or Satan, you must understand that there are great masses of people who do. And their beliefs and actions based upon those beliefs will affect me. The important fact to remember is that the leaders of both the right and the left are a small, hard core of men who have been and still are Illuminists or members of the Brotherhood. They may have been or may be members of the Christian or Jewish religion, but that is only to further their own ends. They are and always have been Luciferian and internationalist. They give allegiance to no particular nation, although they have used, on occasion, nationalism to further their causes. Their only concern is to gain greater economic and political power. The ultimate objective of the leaders of both groups is identical. They are determined to win for themselves undisputed control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the entire planet. They intend to turn the world into their conception of a Luciferian totalitarian socialist state. In the process, they will eliminate all Christians, Jews, and atheists. You have just learned one, but only one, of the great mystery.
But now it had to change. Lucifer says we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to disconnect us from multidimensional infinity so that we don't see the world from that perspective and therefore see through the illusion and see through the nonsense and see through the lies. And then once they've disconnected people, they then program this lower level of our consciousness with a reality that suits them. And therefore, the only information that they have to get a fix on how they see life, themselves, and reality in general is through the eyes and the ears. And who controls that? The Illuminati control that.
They're trying to disconnect us from multidimensional infinities. And then once they've disconnected people, they then program this lower level of our consciousness with a reality that suits them.
If there's a reality out there pertaining to any alien influence, we need to sort out the government misinformation and disinformation and mind manipulation techniques that they're using. I know for a fact that the plan is to make all of us feel totally helpless, that what's happening is beyond our realm to affect because we've been taken over by aliens, that our Independence Day is dawning. So beware of that. Understand that those criminals have been keeping information and technology from us under the blanket of national security. They are 25 years ahead of us at least. They're way ahead. So when they say, it's aliens, and they show us some incredible technology, don't fall into the trap of feeling totally helpless, that this is beyond our realm to affect. Superstition begins where knowledge leaves off. And they have been keeping knowledge from us for a long time. People have all kinds of belief systems. And I'm sure each and every one of you has various and different belief systems.
To me, though, I'm not necessarily subscribed to what she's saying. I do, but it's really hard to be non-biased when you're dealing with aliens or like mind control experiences, things like that. Don't you think?
It is very hard to be unbiased. As far as what she's saying here specifically, that I just kept picturing, slates coming in that say, "Have no fear."
Mm-hmm. That's true. I kind of remember that Aliens movie. Well, I think it was more about abductions with the actor from Resident Evil. And it was about all the specific dreams that certain patients of this one shrink were having, and they were the fourth kind or something.
Yeah, I just had my buddy over last night, and we were watching our symbology video.
Yeah.
And that's what he brought up, was that movie, The Fourth Kind.
Oh, wow, man. Yeah, that was an interesting show, and there's something to that one for sure. I wanted to actually, there's a bunch of movies now that, we're all using our brains again, and Flat Earth is unlocking so many things. It's almost like when we first started looking into stuff, like I've got stuff on my list that I want to rewatch that I haven't seen in 10 years that I know is going to hold like a huge plethora of information that, could perhaps sway one person, which is what the whole point is, right? To keep educating people on what we're doing. And eventually someone's going to have an aha moment. And the neat thing is that your aha moment is different than mine. So as long as we keep putting stuff out there and keep building the case against them, people are going to start hitting it and just start waking up. And that's why we're here.
And we're watching them with a new scrutiny. I mean, it's not like we're just watching it and some verse happens to just catch our attention and then affect us. We are actively looking and listening. Like our brains have been reprogrammed and rewired. So it's like when you're trying to listen to something in the wind, so you close your eyes and focus and try to listen to everything so that you can pick out the one odd thing that you're listening to. I mean, we're watching these with the focused intent on finding these little nuggets that are going to be in there.
Yeah, exactly. Just like I don't know if you saw the episode of like the Brain Game show where a white guy, it doesn't matter that he's white, I don't know why I said that, but a kid taught himself how to see with clicks, just like bats do, just because he trained himself different. He's using different things. He's forcing, like this would be incredible to say to someone, like you couldn't even pay for this. If you were to.
Oh, where'd you go?
if you want to, if you want, you can go back in time and watch everything, and it'll be brand new to you. You'd be like, "What are you talking about, dude? You're watch movies from 10 years ago." But that's exactly what's happening.
It is. It's exactly what's happening. I was thinking about senses the other day.
Mm-hmm.
5 major senses, and then of course they have what, telepathy or something being the 6th sense.
Gut feeling, yeah, or spirit. That's what, I like to think of it lately that, my gut feeling is actually, perhaps somebody greater than myself looking out for me and kind of sending me little alarms here and there when I go wrong, or like,
No, I completely agree with that. What about balance or direction?
That's interesting. What do you mean as another sense?
Well, I've always
As a
thought of balance as having a sense of balance or a sense of direction. Like I've got a really shitty sense of direction. I mean, I do. But other people can have a really
birthday
good
thing.
direction. You're getting real.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you're breaking up. You're starting to sound like Hack. Oh, they're probably gonna boot you again, aren't they? Well, now you're muted, so I can't hear anything. So I was thinking about sense of balance.
I'm back. Yep.
Awesome, sweet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're
Excellent.
much better.
Okay, so yeah, that's so weird. What happens on the phone? Sometimes it'll just live cut to a song in my library, so it ends up cutting out the audio. But anyways, what I was saying is, so as a gut feeling, you mean is as like a guide or a direction is what your gut is, your sixth sense?
Well,
because I could agree with that. I can see that.
I'm not necessarily talking about an intuition, which would definitely be another sense.
Yes.
About having the people who, like, some people can walk on a slack line or do a tightrope. Other people can barely put one foot in front of the other.
Right.
Some people have a good sense of balance, other people don't. Would that be considered like another one of your senses?
I think I might consider it more as one of my gifts or talents, because
well, I mean, it's your balance would be related to the fluids in your ear.
It is, yeah. You're right. You're right. It could be or it could be refined or boosted senses.
See, or is it just a learned ability?
Well, it's funny. This has come up a few times in the last few days, and I'm not sure where I heard it. We might have talked about it, but some people believe there is no greatness. There's just repetition and hard work, right? Like some athletes will say that, oh, you're so talented. And they'll just say, like, for example, not to be a fanboy, but Conor McGregor's mentality as a UFC fighter is very unique. And he has, different mentality towards like himself. People say, oh, he's so talented. And he just says, no, I just want it really bad. And I just repeat it. And apparently there's this thing that if you put in 10,000 hours into one subject, you will be a master.
I've heard that.
Have you heard that too?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of can hear both sides of it, man. I mean, for myself personally, I am so bad with directions. I'm terrible. Like I literally have to ask people that take me in my own neighborhood, where are we? That's how bad I am. And but I know certain signs and whatever. But on the other hand, I'm phenomenal at other things that other people, may stumble on or can't see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really like right now what you're saying about senses and personalities. Like maybe our personalities are just boosted senses and abilities that separate us more so than, our personalities, perhaps.
Yeah, just a little insight into sort of the matrixing of my brain. I was thinking about the sense of direction and that one CGI movie with the owls. I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah, the Keepers Society. It's like a noble name.
I forget. Yeah, but it's the one with the secret society of owls,
right?
And he goes off to find the secret society to fight the evil, and the evil was collecting their sense of direction, the little pieces of metal inside of their gullet that they used to digest stuff, and they would spit it out, and they were a massive, large magnetic pile. And it was just really strange that it was, I don't know, I was just thinking a sense of balance and a sense of direction, but aren't listed as one of the five senses. And sense of direction, which was thrown off with in that movie with the owls, and then the owls that we had back with the symbology discussion.
Absolutely. This conversation always makes me uncomfortable when we get into this kind of stuff, though, because it starts in my head down the road of when, not when, because I know they already have it. But what I find so unfair is that the government and certain agencies and the elite and people with money and influence that, run this place already have things that can manipulate our heads, which is like so mean and so unfair. Like they can actually make emotions in us now with weapons. Just like, remember when you blew my mind about the heart attack gun?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have stuff that they have had for quite a while, where they can, through radio frequency or whatever, they can induce feelings and reactions and thoughts and words in your head.
Mm-hmm.
That is the kind of stuff that really, really scares me. And when we talk about senses, and when we talk about, maybe like that movie where they take away those key senses, that's freaky. That is freaky.
Yeah, I mean, they could do some really horrible things. Like they were taking away. It was a study done in animals, but it was a technology that, again, people have accused the government of using on them. But it's like a small whittling away of a person's free will.
Right, so how did they achieve that in animals?
I don't remember the exact technology and what tests they were doing, how they were doing it.
Oh, hey. I think I know what you're talking about. It was on PBS. Was it the little mice that have the hat on, the electronic hat, where they could actually make it so terrified that it couldn't move by turning on the button and inducing the fear? Yeah. I think that's it. They also use the same type of thing to cure phobias, I believe. But yeah, that goes hand in hand with what I was saying, which is the shit that really, really scares me nowadays, is like just that thing that they were able to prove by wiring up a mouse, and by sending it certain signals, it could immobilize it to the point where it would just sit in the corner and stare or something, as opposed to moving when the lights are on. It would run and it would like try and hide, and then they could turn a switch and it would just sit like a vegetable.
Oh, I think that wasn't it like an electrified floor or something?
Yeah, it was all about like it was a PBS special on like the brain and memory and replacing memories and inserting memories and controlling emotions.
Yeah, it was a study on learned helplessness was what they were studying, and trying to, basically learn not how to take away free will, but this is basically how to so frustrate the brain that the person willingly gives over free will.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you are teaching them to be helpless. It's learned helplessness. Crazy stuff.
Well, let's use our heads and let's think of examples of it. I mean, because I know there are some. I mean,
sure, 9/11,
terrorism.
mean, this is all training us to live in fear and to have that learned helplessness and to hunker down and do nothing. Don't go to the pulse. Don't go out dancing. If you're a gay man, you might get shot by the big scary ISIS Muslim people. Don't go out. Everybody, crazy people with guns here in America might shoot you. It's all a learned helplessness. That's learned ruling through fear.
See, that might work here, I'm sure. And what works even better than fear is sloth and envy and lust, which is what's running on the TVs and the radios all day long, and all our media, magazines, books, everything being programmed to the kids, to the adults, is all I don't care, me, look at this, take this picture, buy this thing. Same thing.
Sure.
That is so effective at like controlling a population.
You got to give them something to do. Once that mouse sits down in helplessness, you got to give it something to do. And
Absolutely.
If it's purely hedonistic, and the mouse will just want to sit there and play with itself all day, then that's what it's going to do.
It's gotten so bad, my man. It's to the point where what's acceptable and normal in the world now is when a tragedy happens, instead of getting up and going and rolling down your sleeves, if it's in your town or whatever, no, you tweet about it, you write about it, you blog about it, you put up a different color blog, the rainbow on my Facebook profile, my show of solidarity. Like, that's what's acceptable. That's what a man is, if you tweet or you do something like that. It's crazy if that's what it is, like confusing us. They're doing a hell of a job, man.
Aren't they?
It's working.
Ridiculously well.
Oh, I mean, but like I said, we're all part of it, though. I'm one to talk, sitting here like I know everything. I have a fetish obsession with the UFC, and I know that's just fodder to make me, just like other sports, football. It's all the same. All the same program, man.
Makes me think of Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah. I think he's an interesting guy. That he's another guy that when I hear his voice, it just doesn't match his body, because they always hide their voice in the American movies.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like the famous Australians to the girls.
Right, Nicole Kidman. Wasn't she an Aussie?
Yeah, what's her name? Was it the one I was thinking of?
I don't know.
I was thinking of the blonde one, Tom Cruise's ex, and the one in Mad Max, who also played the killer hooker.
I got Tom Cruise's ex. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah.
Kidman.
On the other ones, she plays Mad Max. Oh well. Doesn't matter. But no, that was a good little side bar there. I think we should play it again.
I'm not saying that there's no such thing as aliens. That would be foolish of me to even say anything like that at all. But
there is no such thing as aliens.
Thank goodness. Like, I mean, but there's still people that make their livings off this. Like, look at this guy. What's his name? With the hair and the face.
It's aliens guy.
Yeah. But it's not just the kooks, though, or the kids or whatever. Like, I have, acquaintances. I don't speak to them on a regular basis anymore. But people my age that I went to school with that are absolutely convinced to this day and obsessed to this day and always with the gray aliens and this exists, and there are them out there. For those of you listening, people still believe this, like hardcore. Just ask Josh. But what people believe in, hey, with your spiders and goo and
yeah, some people will believe just about anything.
it was my experience that these were people claiming to be aliens.
People in this world are about to destroy the sovereignty of nations, take away our Bill of Rights. The UFO thing is integrally tied into this in some way. I'm not exactly sure how, but if extraterrestrials are real, then they're controlling everything, believe me. If they're not real, they're being used as a threat from without to scare people into coming into this one world global unity of humanity in order to face that external threat. In the process, we'll lose. The ordinary man will lose.
You need to understand, disinformation is deliberate deceit to hide other things. And so there's so much of that. And some of it is surprisingly well-sponsored disinformation.
I'm going to sum up this talk and mention an overview of the alien agenda. The alien agenda is really decimate the planet to take the remaining human subjects as slaves, and the aliens would use this planet for their own means.
My question I'd like to ask is this. If the aliens have a 1,200 IQ, can speak all these languages, and are so powerful, what prevents them from just taking over?
Well, it's a good question. We're an alien species to them, and our germs have tendency to kill.
That was such a lame answer.
And they're in far worse condition than anybody with the worst case of terminal cancer. They are in need of us to some degree.
And some of it is surprisingly well-sponsored disinformation.
And that's why the aliens things never sat well. I mean, for me, anyways, there was always this little question.
Aliens on a craft that had crashed. I wondered if you could describe what they look like.
I could, but it would probably take a whole lot of time. The reason I state that, when I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself walk among us, and you wouldn't even notice the difference.
But that's what they said, right? That was the disinformation programming they've been putting out. So.
Yep.
The situation is that you have various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation where the scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case. Because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets, that they would take on some type of other being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are. But apparently, we got quite a few of the species out there that are humanoid in appearance, and that creates a question that yet has to be answered by science.
I mean, this video is great. It's a long haul, but it really covers a lot of stuff. That's why I recommended it. Just really looks like water to me now. Anytime I see anything like this, it looks like they're shooting it in the bottom of an aquarium or something. Again, does not look like that is in the sky. That footage turned out to be a hoax. A lot of these clips have explanations.
Does that explain some of the visual glances of these things? They seem to just simply disappear. They're gone.
Exactly. I mean, they're appearing out of nowhere, and then
George
disappearing
Noory.
right in front of people, and that's what
Yep.
who have no
He
grind.
broadcasts that St.
They
Louis
just
now.
say that it doesn't make that much sense, and also if they're just trying to
It's a huge radio town there, hey?
take account of what we're doing on Earth.
Not that big. I mean, I think it's a mid-sized market. I don't think it's like a big New York-sized
It
market.
kind of gets old. They either would take us over, or they've already discovered all.
Oh, am I thinking Cincinnati then? I thought outside of New York that was quite big. St. Louis, I thought, but okay.
Sort of do what they need to do next to endlessly observe us. It doesn't make any sense. It's something where, and also see if we have all these sightings, as you know much better than I do. Where are they landing? We don't see them getting out to get anything to drink or to eat. We don't see them. They've never tried to make contact with any large amount of people in a major city. And so this doesn't, and also all the endless medical procedures that the people who have claimed to have been abducted. Why the endless medical procedures? I mean, if we're talking about such an advanced race of alien beings, they don't need to do that over and over and over again.
In perspective, let's talk about some of the facts out there of evidence that may support your conclusion that the UFOs are spiritual phenomena, not physical. What can we confirm?
Well, again, it's something where you cannot have a material or a physical being penetrating the ground, penetrating the water, appearing in front of people, then disappearing instantly, and then also changing colors. Every color in the spectrum has been reported. Many UFOs coming and making one UFO breaking apart.
I don't mind if we skip a bit ahead of this. That's just kind of like not so great.
Get into the fact of how far they're traveling.
Is Jacques Vallée, France, and J. Allen Hynek, the American. Now, J. Allen Hynek was head of astronomy at Cornell, and he set out to debunk this nonsense about UFOs. He became one of the most ardent, competent, balanced researchers. Great. Both of these respected researchers came to the conclusion that they're not intergalactic. Lots of physics. There are a lot of physics rebuttals to that conjecture. They both argued that these things are demonic. Their term. They've written many, many books. You can check them out. These are not religious people. They're not people with any kind of personal agenda. But they came to the conclusion that these things, on the one hand, and by the way, we take for granted that we strip away the nonsense of the hoaxes. Tens of thousands of files you have to wallow through. When you cut through all that, there's still a core group, a substantial core group of real events that need explanation. And so on the one hand, they exhibit
The real X-Files.
on the one hand, on the other hand, they also violate all physical laws. And so the conclusion from that both J. Allen Hynek and Jacques Vallée and others have come to is that they're hyperdimensional, that somehow they come from another dimension periodically. But both of them came to the conclusion that these creatures are hyperdimensional. They're not from some other galaxy. They also both concluded they're hostile because they pretend to be something they're not.
Space.
In the sense of being
What a
physical.
joke, hey? I have a real hard time just looking at any kind of footage like that and not thinking that's like a nail in a lake with a couple of floaties, or like it's just so unbelievable. It's hard to watch now.
They can go in excess of 6,000 miles per hour without sonic boom. What on earth does that mean?
Look, you captured a
Like to know how
star.
they do that?
Yep, that's actually a real star, I bet.
Right angle turns at over 16,000 miles an hour. That defies the laws of physics.
What is that UFO in the sky?
Now, the more and perhaps the most
It's
disturbing of all,
Jupiter.
materialized and dematerialized.
Yep.
Without a trace.
In his book, Secrets of the UFOs, ufologist Don Elkins made the following observation.
Boo.
Some people can achieve the contact phenomenon simply by being hypnotized, and the same general message permeates over 90% of the millions of words received by thousands of people around the world.
No one knows what hypnosis is. No one knows what goes on in the mind. It's an altered state of consciousness like yogis and witch doctors have been practicing. It loosens the normal connection between your spirit and your brain. And of course, if the hypnotist can control you, make all kinds of suggestions, make you think things are happening that are happening, make you think you have experiences that you haven't, even implant memories, other beings, if there are other minds out there, they could also do the same thing.
Those guys doing no good for the movement, I have to say.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy stuff.
Mm.
What's interesting is that there was a huge satanic ritual that was performed on the very spot where Area 51 happened by this Jack Parsons, yeah, and in which they had this magical ceremony called Babylon Working, and it was designed by Aleister Crowley, who was a Satanist who called himself the B666.
Yes.
And the purpose of this series of magical ceremonies, which was performed on the spot of Area 51, where it's now located, was to unseal an interdimensional gateway, they said. And so this, they hoped, would allow other entities known as the, quote, Old Ones access to our space-time continuum. And this witness said that he saw Jack Parsons rip a hole in space-time there, and he said that something evil flew in. And one other interesting point is that Aleister Crowley, who was a Satanist, who called himself the B666, as I just mentioned, he claimed to have contact with some kind of alien named Lamb. And this Lamb, he drew a picture of this alien that he was in contact, receiving messages from this being. And the picture that he drew of this alien, it's a striking resemblance to the common gray ET drawing. And obviously they have the secret base there where advanced aircraft is being tested. And so it's not one or the other, it's actually both. And what's interesting is this fellow Jack Parsons, who was the main person involved in the satanic ritual, he was involved in creating some of the most advanced technological stuff that we have right now in rocket propulsion systems. He was even involved with a lot of stuff that NASA does. They even named a crater on the moon. It's called the Parsons Crater. It was named after Jack Parsons.
Right.
So you see all the connections here.
You know, I've long believed that if there is satanic activity on this planet, and I believe there is, if they are in constant communication with these demons, or even if they conjure them up, Brother Michael? Is it possible they do with their rituals and things like that?
The chief advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, Sir John Dee, he was a Kabbalistic black magician.
Alchemist.
He had gone to the continent and learned from the top Jewish Kabbalists black magic, and he was the chief advisor in the British Empire. And he created Enochian magic and the Enochian language, which the Illuminati, which are hiding behind the Jehovah's Witness headquarters, they use Enochian rituals. So John Dee conjured up demons or angels, okay, with his black magic. The beings that he conjured up, there were pictures drawn of them, and they look identical to what we call gray aliens. Okay, I tell you something. And then I visit with debriefing people that came out of high levels of the Illuminati, and these different types of aliens are participating in Illuminati rituals.
Yeah, the famous call. The famous Art Bell call. This never gets old.
Weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Get very nervous when I call you. I'm Brian. I hung up on you last week. Oh, I see. And I just figured, damn the torpedoes. I'll just do this and let the chips fall where they will. All right. Everybody, I am the Area 51 caller. That's my statement. Or whatever. You claim you're the area? How do you account for the fact, Area 51 caller? Okay, that part of the way through your spiel, the satellite went down. I have no idea, and it scared the heebie-jeebies out of me that night. I called characters, and I didn't know what you wanted me to do. I knew it was very difficult to prove to you. But I just thank you for your patience.
I didn't know what you wanted me to do, he said.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat. I occasionally think how quickly, how different the world
Where is that? Where is he speaking? Do you know?
Yet I ask you,
I want to say,
alien force already among us?
I don't remember.
What could be more alien to these?
Probably United Nations.
So yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but that would have been purely a guess.
Mm-hmm. It just looks so big. That's why I was like, "Wow, is it still that big? Where they hold those now, like the house or wherever?" I don't know.
This is classic too.
Oh yeah.
Who are you? Who are you? The Keeper? Rebecca? Rebecca, Keeper, get out of the way. I command you to stay out of the way. Rebecca?
Yes.
Say, I, Rebecca,
I, Rebecca.
want love. Stay out of the way, Keeper. Stay out of the way. I want out.
I want out.
Say, I put my trust
I put my trust
in God.
in God.
In God. Stay out of the way, Keeper.
God.
Libera, mamma mia, no, no, Marigno, Marigno, Cristo più forte. Cazzo di via. Di la verità. Di la verità. Di la verità.
So what they're doing, in effect, is using the secret society network they've set up to manipulate these bodies into power, but in doing so, they're putting themselves into power because they're controlling the mental and emotional processes.
We're bringing back the classics. Yet another classic.
Only an AuthenticBooking.com property with.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different kinds of entities.
True story.
That operate just outside of human sight, and history has recorded them as demons and all this stuff. But the reptilian part of it seems to be very significant to the controlling systems on the planet today.
Today, there's a lot of genetic experiments and Nephilim being created that are hybrids, and this is a very important part of what the Illuminati is doing. And they have been intermarrying with what the public calls aliens. So that these people aren't human as we would know human. They've been pretty thoroughly demonized. Bottom line is I have concluded that there are no good aliens. The aliens are demons, and we've got a mixture going on of demons and flesh and blood. And we've also got other genetic experiments.
Has this ever been explained away?
I don't know.
They have a vibrational sympathy with that which
Remember, a demon, get a real spooky picture. There are a fallen angel, an unclean spirit. They can assume any form or go into anything.
I have concluded that there are no good aliens. The aliens are demons.
We can establish through this testimony that these objects of extraterrestrial origin have been tracked on radar going thousands of miles per hour, stopping and making right-hand turns. That they use anti-gravity propulsion systems, which we have already figured out how they work. That extraterrestrial life forms have been retrieved, and their vehicles have been taken and studied thoroughly for at least 50 years.
To want to believe in some race of benevolent space brothers that come and save us from ourselves. But it's not logical, and you can't make it work any way you look at it.
This grand plan is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because it says spirits, human spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
Some might call it a power lunch, but it sounded more like a reunion of brothers.
The Illuminati were to obtain control of the press and all other agencies which distribute information to the public. News and information was to be slanted so that Goyams would come to believe that a one-world government is the only solution.
Slanted and Goyams. That's funny.
Their plan, their conspiracy remains invisible.
The agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish.
And then he says at the end of this is he will give you 666.
Behind them is a cult of evil, which seeks to harm the innocent and thrives on human suffering.
Have you ever heard Obama's "Yes We Can" backwards?
I was hoping you were going to bring that up. Yeah, it is. It is. It's unexplainable.
So that also got me to thinking the other day about PBS and cartoon shows and Bob the Builder and all the little kids and what it is they're supposed to answer back in return, because that's the great thing about PBS cartoons is they talk to the kid like and the kid doesn't know any better. They think they're actually engaging with the television. That's part of the hypnosis.
Yeah, like Sesame Street. They'll be like, "Hey, you there, watching on the other side of the TV. What do you think?" You know, they'll do something like that.
Exactly. So Bob the Builder, can we fix it?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Satan.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Satan. Well, that's funny. Well, it's not really. I mean, it's predictable, right?
Just kind of sick when you have all these little kids running around saying it.
I mean, we could do a whole show on the music industry, but I had to, I have to endure my little niece who's about 7 or 8, listening to Katy Perry's song where she did that collaboration, the witchcraft song that she did. Just like not understanding what it is, and like when the video was on, like it's just like, wow, look at that. Like, woo, she's dressed as a witch, like just complete like innocence, right, about it, thinking it's just like a Halloween costume or something. But really, it's like you said, it's like early childhood programming.
Oh, son of a bitch. I think I was here. No.
Oh, wherever. I mean, we can skim through a bit to get it finished anyways. We don't have to. I think we generally know most of it. There's been some good information. It's just something that we haven't seen in a while, and I was hoping that maybe some of the listeners would call in and get involved, but apparently it's not a huge hit tonight, hey?
I don't think we've had one single viewer.
No, and before when we have debate on there, I guess it seems to work.
No, but I think if we promote it a little bit more as a actual open house.
I hear you too. Yep. Don't recognize this guy.
That some of the things that didn't fit. And one of the things that I had to ask is, when did this actually stop? Every UFO book starts with, on June 24, 1947, Kenneth Arnold saw something about Ukrainians. Well, that's not really true. I mean, we have data from the 30s and the 20s and from 1896 and 1897 all over the United States, and then you can go in history. And many people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that this is, if you follow the first level extraterrestrial theory, then ETs, discovered us when the atom bomb went off and they came here to study us. Well, that's not what the data says. So,
angels in the sky?
then I started looking at some of the things that didn't fit. And one of the things that I had to ask is, when did this actually stop? Every UFO book starts with, on June 24, 1947, Kenneth Arnold saw something about Ukrainians. Well, that's not really true. That's from the 30s and the 20s and from 1896 and 1897 all over the United States, and then you can go back in history. Many people don't.
Does that look like a UFO to you?
It no.
Does it look more like Noah's Ark to you?
It does. It looks a heck of a lot more like Noah's Ark sitting in the firmament of the waters while the storm was going.
Even
and
still.
The finger of God is pointing at it.
Yeah, but here's our horizon line.
Exactly.
Right up here. So this is just water.
And that's Noah's Ark.
And this is the Ark.
Yeah. You've just uncovered something that has puzzled people for years because we know about FE. Wow. That's incredible. That's a screenshot. That's a meme right there. That's awesome, man. Yeah, because you can see the sun in the firmament too, right? I mean,
well, it's definitely a cloud because I'm seeing just maybe fading, maybe discoloration. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I definitely see horizon line.
Absolutely. And we see the finger, right? Is that a finger, or what is that supposed to be in the actual painting? I wonder.
That certainly looks like a finger pointing to me.
And it looks like it may be pointing to the Ark, which would make sense, which somebody would paint about back then, obviously, right?
Yeah, I would think. I don't know.
That is so interesting that you found that. Because that is clearly, dude, that is clearly a horizon. Maybe a mountain, maybe a shoreline in the background, and maybe definitely a cloud with a sun or the sun and the moon beside it. Maybe that it could be a moon there too. Sun and moon, yeah. Under the dome. Which this is great.
They want to hear that. They want to hear that this is, if you follow the first level extraterrestrial theory, then ETs, discovered us when the atom bomb went off, and they came here to study us.
Was that at her eye level?
That's not what the data says.
I believe it was. Let's just see that again if you can. I bet you it was. Or very close.
Discovered us when.
Ooh.
Pretty damn close.
Like, yeah, a little bit too.
If she were to sit it.
If her head was straight, it would be at eye level, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just plumb, yeah.
So that's just the ocean in the background of the painting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that literally has, like, can you zoom out to the, like, do they show the actual big photo?
I don't think they do.
Oh. See, now I want to look at that photo.
I think that's about the best we get there.
I am going to run a search, alien UFO in old painting with woman, and I'm sure I'll get the big picture. Ha! No pun intended.
And they came here to study us. Well, that's not what the data says. So when did it start? And I found
Oh yeah, all I had to do was UFO painting. Sorry.
Going back to medieval times and even before. Of course, as you go back in history, you lose the cultural context, and it's harder to understand the data. But in medieval times, there were records, especially the records of the church, that were kept very, very carefully about strange phenomena. The skeptics are always saying, well, give us your best case and we'll take it apart. There is no such thing as one best case in to look for patterns, and then that's how the phenomenon reveals itself to you.
And for a long period of time, or for a period of time, I believed it was extraterrestrial. I now believe it is interdimensional, the phenomenon. In other words, we're looking at so-called spirit beings from another dimension. And I watched a couple of videos where these beings manifested to human beings and what their reactions were, and then comparing it to reactions present day of people who have had encounters, and the similarities are striking. First of all, you say to yourself, why would let's say anyone deliberately crash saucers in Roswell, New Mexico, and then allow the bodies to be retrieved? What are these bodies, in fact? It took me a long time to figure this out. I mean, this is a theory, okay? There's a difference between the grays, the little guys, right, that we see that have now been enculturated with the big black slanted eyes that are about 4 feet tall, all right? Those, let's just call them the grays because pretty much everyone knows them as grays. But there's another creature which people and abductees talk about that they see on board the ship. And these are tall beings, and they assume different forms. Sometimes they can appear as reptilian, other times they can appear as insect.
Can I also say this is the subject that my girlfriend wants me to do on the radio?
Really?
Aliens are demons, yeah.
And how are you going to broach it? Because that is interesting. I mean, if you broach that subject, I think one of the good ways you could do that is by talking a little bit about maybe Roger Morneau. I mean, I don't know. Actually, what was interesting, I told John about Roger tonight. He hadn't heard about that. I always recommend that if people have questions about, alien, demon, etc. I tend to start them off with that, and then maybe mention, like I would mention Roger, I would mention maybe Trey Smith, as some sources for maybe where people can learn a little more about it. How do you feel about doing that on air?
I would be perfectly fine with that. I think that would be, I mean, I would just totally broach it as far as we're going to talk about aliens. We're going to talk about flying saucers and the little gray aliens that come down and abduct people. We all know the stories. Here's a different take.
Yeah. Well, you know the saying too. Apparently, if you're having an abduction, right? An alien abduction, all you do is mention the name of Christ, and apparently it stops.
That's what I've heard.
Yep. Well, I've heard the same thing. Thankfully, I have not had to test that out, but I'll take their word for it for now.
Well, not just abductions, but in any sort of...
This is true again. That's right.
Obey. So at any time you feel you're under attack in a demonic, spiritual sort of way.
And it does help, no matter what. I do know that as well. And just kind of, it lends credence to how much, there's a lot of examples about little things that people may not think are important, like language and wording, and like certain, ways of doing things. If you look at the other side of the spectrum, people like Crowley and Blavatsky and what's that other wonderful chap's name? He's a 33rd Mason who wrote Manly Hall.
Manly P, yeah.
Yep. So people like that, they take such care with names and languages and pronunciations, and it just goes to show you that there is power in names, right? Which is nothing new, because it says that in the book. I mean, it says that in the Bible. And like you said, did you say that the Israelites were so afraid that they had to come up with another name? They wouldn't use the actual name because it was so powerful.
I did not say that, but that's what I've heard, yes.
No, I mean, the whole thing is interesting. The whole thing is just fascinating. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely a topic that you could talk about for hours and put a new twist on. The only thing that I sometimes think about is, how popular the big black spiders are.
I know. Well, I think again this could tie in because we're still going to stick to the sensational.
Yep.
But
And they mentioned it. They did. After you got off the air, they were still mentioning it, weren't they? Something about demons. I thought it came up on the show. Pretty sure it did.
Could be.
But it was like quick. It was like a quick reference, you know.
Well, the host used to be really religious, like super religious at one point.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, I have a big problem with that though. Like, there's got to be a clear definition for me between religion and spirituality and following Jesus or following Christ, let's say, and then following a religion. Completely different, man. Like 1,000 degrees of separation there.
Right. Exactly.
Like me personally, I mean, I'm a believer, and you know, my research led me to that. Like my personal story, like after years and years and years, it all boiled down to two things, right? Like there's a hella evil side and there's a hella good side, and the hella good side exists because I've seen it in the little stupid magic and rituals and dumb things that they provide and things. But you know, the one thing that they do is always try and destroy the other side, and that means the other side exists as well. That means the other side is the right side. So for me it makes simple sense.
Sure.
So but yeah,
back to the Israelites changing the name, as I recall, because each letter was the breath of God, as I recall, was how you pronounced it. So it was each word was almost, or each syllable was letter was sighed out in a breath. Huh. So you
right
pronounce each one, and I guess if you did it just right, amazing things would happen. So they had to not run the risk of that ever happening. And that's why they had to change the name. It's all a matter of learning the other name.
Here's something really interesting too that I've heard, which I've tried to relate in a human sense, but I just cannot comprehend it. But apparently, when Moses actually went up on Mount Sinai, so there was a period, right? Like you got to imagine, okay, Israelites have come out of Egypt, right? They finally got the Pharaoh to let them go because God punished all of the gods, all of the Babylonian gods in Egypt. God severely made fun of. He like caused all of the plagues against the god of that plague. So the Babylonian god for you know the ground or for food, right? He made the ground turn into maggots. Like he was just a direct attack on all of the false gods of Babylon. So they got out of Israel. They followed Moses. They ran along like a bunch of shit, and then they. Hey Rob, how are you, man?
Hey mate, yeah, good.
What's going on?
Just knocked off work, mate. Friday arvo, you beauty.
Right on. We are live. We're just watching a vid and just having a little chat after the chat.
Scariest UFO documentary ever.
It's kind of talks about aliens and demons. That's kind of what it's about, I think.
Yeah, bud, Mum will be home shortly. Sorry, James.
What were you saying, Josh? Like, because I had a good point there. I was culminating into something.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
I know. Yeah, probably not a good time, anyways. But yeah, kind of all roads led down there, anyways, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw your message earlier, Josh. That's so you got a message back from Patricia.
I did.
And not Mark yet?
Not yet.
No.
Really, the only reason I even typed that out. Last night I was laying in bed, just about ready to fall asleep, and I'll check in on his channel every once in a while to see if he's doing anything worthwhile. and they just put his most recent on. I'm just kind of sitting there listening to it. The name of it's Flat Earth Breaking Through or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But I thought, you know what, this would be a good. I mean, technically, I'm sort of breaking through that barrier into the stream, theoretically. So I figured
Absolutely.
I'd type him up an email.
And
You're one of the few with enough nuts to actually go on mainstream and talk about it and use your name too.
Yeah, that's true. Enough respect, bro. But whatchamacallit responded too, right? The other fella, which is neat.
Yeah, Jaron.
Mm-hmm.
Did that was pretty neat. Seems like I'd sent him a couple of messages before, and it might go, 6-8 weeks without being responded to, which is no big deal. I mean, I get it. He's busy. No big deal. I don't care.
Well, we definitely know he's busy.
But I did feel the need to sort of put something in the bottom and sort of personalize his. I just copied and pasted. In fact, when I posted to Patricia and to Jaron both, it still said Mark at the top.
I mean, but that's the sort of thing, though, right? I mean, I'd have to say all of us have seen those videos, right? And come to that sort of like consensus. Like Mark and shit, man, they have great info. They helped a lot of people get into the movement. They deserve respect, and they deserve, props for continuing to do what they do.
Absolutely.
I hope we don't ever have to have the conversation. Well, let's just call it. You'll get this reference if I can come up with the name. From Kingpin, the term when you really do bad, monks or something. You know what it is. But anyways, I hope we don't have to have the conversation one day where it's a
Munson.
It's a Munson, exactly. I hope they don't get Munson, and we don't have to have the Alex Jones conversation where we look back and say, yeah, that was the point where they sold out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a possibility, and it's always a possibility that they change artistically, they change philosophically, and they get nobody else does.
I see that, like a biblical thing, or maybe a philosophy change in outlook towards science or something, and they just kind of branch off.
Right.
Yeah. So I think I remembered what we were kind of going to before. No, I don't. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, you were talking about the pronunciation of the name, right?
Yeah.
Right, I just remembered. Okay, so here we go. So apparently Moses, when he went up to the mountain, not a lot of people know this, but he actually, well, actually probably all the people that know the story know this. So they were being led. They had lots of trouble, but they still put their faith in him. So Moses goes up to the mountain. Sorry, I just wanted to let that go by. And so he had gone up to the mountain. He was there up on the mountain for 30 or 40 days. 40 days. Okay? And at that time, when he was at the top of the mountain, apparently, he was in the presence of God. And when he came down 40 days later, because he had actually spoken to God, his face could not be looked at. Like, people had to turn away. They had to put something, not a bag, I don't want to say a bag, but they actually had to put something on his head so that people could actually look at him when he spoke. Have you heard that before?
It does sound vaguely familiar.
It just kind of, and that's for the part where I was like, that's where my limitations are so basic, because I can't even comprehend, like, what is that, like a radiation thing where, like, you know, it stays around you. Like I can't comprehend that.
Right.
But I mean, the concept is so interesting that you could actually be, well, you could almost be exposed to something, right? And then be contaminated for a while, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Possible. Sure.
Sure.
Anyway, so going back, what were you saying before about the show? What were you talking before? This stuff. No, me neither.
I'd said my girlfriend. This is the topic my girlfriend wanted me to talk about.
Oh yes, yeah. When how much time do you usually do? Does it take you take about a week or two to prepare, or you just kind of like throw it together?
I usually take a day.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, work late Monday nights, so I have all day Monday to usually prepare.
Yep.
The day before that whole morning, basically, to refine and prepare again. And in my experience, those are usually the shows that don't come across very well because I'm just over prepared and I have too much information.
Well, you had a lot of solid information on the goo. You had so much information on that.
And I probably could have cut down on my list of media references.
But it was everything that I'd ever searched on it that came up. You had every single one, pretty much. All of them, the new ones, the old ones, the ones that like you had them all. Actually, the only thing did you mention Creepshow as well?
No, well, because it's not about the goo, but that was like the first movie I remember watching when I
with
movies
the goo. Yeah.
Creeps. Yep.
Yeah. Well, just because we're the same age, that's why I mentioned it. I knew right away that was one you'd be like, oh man, I saw that when I was like 8 or 9. I remember that at my buddy Jerry's house when we were watching it, you know. And that was like one of the first times I seen it.
Boobies.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Back in the day when things were all weird, like movies like Puppet Master. Remember that?
I remember that.
And Hellraiser. The Cube.
The Cube.
Have you seen that movie, The Cube?
I think so.
It's an interesting concept actually.
There was a TV show called The Cube.
That was based on the same premise of rooms. Yeah.
I think it's the other way around. I think the movie was based on the TV show because the TV show is pretty old.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense.
And it wasn't like a whole thing. I was watching it. It was very, very good. It was very like existential. There was.
I remember that show, Existence. That was a good movie.
Existence was a very weird movie.
Like creepy weird, but a very good premise and something that I think we're all, you know, that's where we're headed, right? Just like that movie Gamer.
Well, Existence ties back to the black goo and this idea of synthetic biology. If you remember in the BP oil disaster, this oil gushing out, they created a special bacteria, live programmable bacteria, to go down there and eat the oil. I forget exactly what it was they were doing, but they had sent this thing. They named it Cynthia.
For synthetic, intelligent, artificial intelligence, something. So, interesting.
But yeah, it was like Synthia, Cynthia. And it was this, programmable bacteria. And there was this guy on YouTube, because you could watch the underwater cams.
It can't be a real-time programmable bacteria, though. It has to be like something that you activate once, correct? Or are they that advanced that they can do real-time?
I think it was an activate once.
But even still.
It's like, well, it was like it was, I don't know. There were some awfully strange things going on underwater down there by that well. I mean, I wish I could remember what that guy's name.
Who are you talking about? The guy from the?
There was a guy who had a YouTube channel, and he would spend all day just watching live.
The feed of the fisher, right? Of the break.
Well, yeah, of the fissure, of the break, of the well itself, and all the different cameras surrounding it. Yeah, and he would watch feed after feed after feed, and the things he would find were really, really creepy.
See, that's interesting. I almost find it, like, for me and where I live, like, it's like being in Texas, right? That's all we do is oil here. We're oil town. So the fact that it was like a small little BOP cap that blew the whole thing is mind-boggling to us Canadians. Like, we're literally like in shock and ashamed that, like, it's almost it almost seems to me like it could have been on purpose, because like the part is so critical. It's named the blow up preventer. Like, that's what it's called. It's the BOP. You know, like, for them not to put that on. Such a level of reprehend. It's like day one, day half. So I don't know. The whole makes me think that maybe it was a punishment. Maybe it was like a retribution for something BP did. Like, I don't know. Almost seemed like a humiliation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that whole thing was real fishy.
yeah, agree. Well, what do you say? What do you say we wrap this up?
I think we might as well. I gotta hit the rack soon.
Significant other begging me to do some chores. You got stuff to do? Let's call her a night.
I think we should.
All
We
right,
didn't
man.
watch the whole thing, but we watched a significant portion,
Mhm.
and we saw a lot of the UFO stuff.
And we learned a great lesson. This stuff isn't too popular.
But we did decode one of the great ancient alien mysteries.
Oh, dude, we are going to be talking about that for a long time. That is huge. That is huge. That is all you two. That's awesome.
You make up the meme. You take full
Of course
credit.
I will. I'll do the meme and I'll tag you.
No, you make full credit for it. That's all you. You make the meme. You
Okay,
make
man.
the credit.
Thanks, dude.
All right. Well, have a great night. And I will talk to you probably later this weekend. I don't know. Did he hang up?